All right, we on, we on. We're gonna wait for him to come on in for a second, man. Come on in, come on in, come on in. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about it. Come on in, everybody. We got a lot to talk about. We getting ready to unpack this whole thing, man. We got to unpack some stuff, and we got to be very transparent. USC defense was lost in the sauce last night. We got to talk about it.
Oh yeah. Oh
Come
yeah.
on in, Big John. How's everything going, man?
You know what, man? It's another blessed Sunday. I'm gonna say happy victory Sunday.
Yep, yep.
We did get the victory, although it was not without some blemishes. So it's great to be transparent and it's great to keep it hot. I like to call it
Absolutely.
honest, open, and transparent. We gotta keep it HOT around here. And
Yeah,
there's definitely some holes that need to be plugged up on both sides of the ball,
yeah,
just across the board. And I think really at this, pivotal central point of the season that's now drifting into the tail end of the season, we're starting to see some of the amortization that happens in a program that has been pieced together like an erector set. You're starting to see some of the screws unloose a little bit, and some of those pieces that you kind of just had to glue together. You know, we got to find a way to bond those pieces a little bit stronger, and I'm confident that the coaching staff will. I understand what these young men are going through because it's not without a ridiculous amount of stress and pressure and other factors that that can often come in and just mess with the chemistry of what you're building. But you definitely can see where we can run into some hurdles here.
absolutely. And so we got good, we got bad, we got ugly. I want to deal with the ugly first, man. Because
Let's go.
last night, man, looking at what was taking place with the defense, I mean, we were absolutely, I didn't see any real adjustments as far as in the second half as relates to the quarterback, man. I've seen on several occasions, man, where it looked like we had the guy almost sacked, and he gets out of there and just magically disappeared from the guy, and then all that slipping through guys' hands. And ironically, I heard Lincoln Riley say, I thought we tackled well. I think I heard him say that last night in one of the interviews, and I'm just like, wait a minute, man, what game are we looking at? We looked at a totally different game. And let me say this: I don't think we even realize more how much we missed Eric Gentry after last night. It
Yeah.
was absolute. It was an absolute just. I mean, catastrophic. I mean, from a level from 1 to 10, it was a 10. How much we miss him and his ability from sideline to sideline, man, and the things that he can do, man. What's your thoughts on that?
I stand with you. I could not agree more. That's not to discredit the efforts or the abilities of any of the other players that were able to step in his absence. It's just you can see how much of a factor he is, how much of a force and a strong primary contributor he is to being disruptive on defense. And not only that, but just from what I could see, and I'm watching it, not just from a fan's perspective and a former player, but I'm looking at it from a big brother. And I'm looking for the spiritual leader on the field in the
Yeah,
defense, make sure that the whole unit is playing with a certain level of moxie and a certain level of the oomph that you need to triumph, right? I was looking for that oomph.
yeah,
There was a bunch of guys trying hard, but they need to try oomph, and I think
yeah.
I think Eric Gentry is that oomph.
Yeah,
That,
absolutely. And
that
you really realize, after last night's game, John, you really realize how much, because you would see him do little things like, get the team excited, and you will see little, enthusiasm that he has within himself. And
he's the
and and
spark.
man, you did not see that last night at all, man.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, when you're accustomed to certain individuals having a role on a squad or in a team in any type of an organization, once that role is no longer there, you may not have had the reps to become that energy if that force that you're using to help drive and motivate and the glue guy, if you will. Because last week, in our last conversation, I referenced Eric Gentry to me as he's the bridge that connects the D line to the secondary, which completes the unit. And he's like that midpoint that allows for the whole system to work well. And he's just a remarkable guy. And I believe that there'll be case studies for his type of player.
Right.
The hybrid that he is. I believe that there'll be some level of case studies, and I think he's creating a new model and a new scale for this type of a position, right? Rangy, long, athletic, physical, good leader, high energy, very dependable, resilient. He's not injury prone. He just plays out of his mind, and and obviously he does need to put on some weight, and I think a little bit more meat on his bones, if you will keep him from some of those little knick-knack bone contusion type injuries, the types of things he's dealing with. But what I will say is I don't blame the other young men who had to step in for not having that same spark and energy, because they probably haven't got to practice it as much as he has. But now that it's there, now that they are in those shoes, you have to walk in those shoes. You have to be that person to the best of your abilities that allows for us to feel like there's no drop off if we get injuries. And that goes across the board, right? A lot of people stepped up last night. A lot of guys said we were going to get a glimpse into our future. We were going to see a crystal ball last night of what types of talent we have on this roster. And it's abundant, and that's not even to mention all of the guys who are coming in. Right. That's not to mention the guys that are still on the
right
working through things. And plus everybody's also still learning these new systems. I just didn't like overall the execution.
No.
In a lot of areas. And I think that's what we could speak on.
Yeah. And not to mention that, okay, not only from the offensive side of the ball, we had, of course, Jordan Addison out. You had Andrew Voorhees out. You had Mario Williams out. Those are the guys from the offense. And then coming over to the defense, you had Gentry out, and you had Corey Foreman out. And, man, you just realize that like I said, you realize how much of an impact that was in the game. And now the defense had their issues as it relates to that. I think the offensive execution was pretty much, for the most part, good. Now, I will say this, when we're talking about the offensive execution, I think, man, to keep if we know we lacking in an area from a defensive perspective, and we know we don't have a leader like Eric Gentry on the field, and I think to prevent our defense from being so fatigued, I think run the ball, control the clock. Why are we relying so much on the pass, in your opinion, to just throw the ball? Throwing the ball on 3rd and 1, that makes absolutely no sense. We can rest up our defense by controlling the clock, run the ball, run everybody, run Travis Dye, run Austin Jones, run Relief, run Darwin Barlow. Utilize those guys to be able to preserve some of the deficiencies on defense. What's your thoughts on that?
I would never pretend to understand the inter-framework of a coach, especially a coach that does have a certain level of genius. I'm not aware of the inner dynamics of what makes Coach Riley tick. I just have to have faith and confidence that there's a little bit of method to his madness, a little bit of methodology as to not creating reads and tendencies for the greater backstretch of this season. It's very predictable to run the ball on 3rd and 1. So I do understand kind of those dynamics that might be into play, whereas to not allow for guys to like load the box and game plan you, and really he's just giving different reads. I think it's important to have change ups in your system. I would definitely prefer to see the ball being run a lot more. I do think the coaches are slightly risk adverse because we have one very strong contributing running back that understands how to make the plays in the critical moments, but we have 4 or 5 capable running backs in the system. And I
Yeah,
believe that if you were able to just hand the ball off a little more and get guys into a rhythm and a rotation, you allow for young men to develop the tempo and the tenacity by which that's necessary to be very, very connected to the process of this game and to get into a flow. Running back, defensive back, wide receiver, though, and quarterback. Those positions primarily require rhythm,
yeah,
require
absolutely.
they
Yeah, yeah,
require a tempo, and you got to breathe into every rep, and you got to understand how these guys are tackling. You got to understand the cadence and the timing of things. So it's challenging for an Austin Jones to get in there 4 times a game and when we really need him, and he has
yeah,
an opportunity to like hit the holes and read how the linebackers are stunning. And
yeah,
that's tough, man. And I really, really understand. I just believe that it comes down to a confidence issue, also a preservation issue, because Travis Dye, every single game, that man is leaving parts of his soul out on that field.
seriously,
And
like seriously.
it's just heroic. It really is. I would love to see them control the line of scrimmage a lot more.
Yeah,
I would love to see them dominate physically up front and make the secondary guys on from a defensive standpoint. I want the secondary guys that are covering our receivers to feel like they got to come downhill and make plays in the run game. And
yeah,
that, I guarantee you, that will open up our offense far more efficiently. And I think you're right about that.
yeah, yeah. Now, to this question, right? Well, to this comment right here, it says the defense has to get healthy and correct the issues they are experienced before the UCLA game. Now, let me speak to that because he's right. But early on in the season, even Oregon State game, we've seen the defense at times make adjustments in the second half. We've seen the defense at times clamp down. We just did not see that ability to clamp down, and the defense, it looked pretty bad. It looked pretty bad at times. It just didn't seem like. And now let's credit some of those receivers. I mean, they were making some acrobatic catches, not just acrobatic catches, but I mean, Mekhi Blackman had the guy like a blanket, man. He was covering like a blanket, and the guy would literally stick out his hand just for a split second and catch the ball. Those are, and Lincoln Riley said it. He said those are going to be the best set of receivers that we played all season long. And the quarterback, I think he's proven too as well. What you thinking?
Well, I think Jaden Delara, if he's wearing a Cardinal and gold jersey, he's a Heisman contender. If Jaden Delara is wearing a SEC uniform, he's a Heisman contender. If Jaden Delara plays in any school in the Big Ten or Big Conference, he's a Heisman contender. So let's give that young man his credit.
He was good, man. I mean, what I've seen from him was incredible.
He's the NFL prototype right now. He's the standard for the NFL prototype as well as our quarterback. Those are the types of guys that are the future of what the National Football League's quarterbacking is. And if you just take a moment even to pause and look at the top 4 or 5 quarterbacks in the NFL now, they all have a similar stature and all a similar skill set. Elusive, very mobile, accurate when needed, good decision makers, extreme confidence, and not afraid to tuck and run. Like, those are guys who can create second level plays with their evasive ability when the pass rush gets there. Those are real challenges, right? And I think Delara is way faster than most people give him credit for. Like,
man, that dude, he is super fast, man.
He's got elite level speed at his position.
Yeah.
Here's what I'll say. I knew the receivers from Arizona were solid. I mean, those dudes, if you watch their productivity all season long, they've been a menace in NCAA. It's a shame that they play in a conference that doesn't highlight that level of skill on a national level like some of these other guys. These dudes are having 9, 10, 11 reception games, 115, 20, 30 yards, 2, 3 touchdowns a game. They're having that type of season over there. And nobody who understands football at all or studies the game thought that that offense was going to be shut out. There's no way.
No.
They've been putting up 31 to 36 points every single game.
Yeah.
And and that is the sign of a very high caliber offense in the Power 5. Now,
Absolutely.
I was a little bit surprised is that our defense gave up another 500-yard game. And that to me is a sign that we are getting younger athletes in our defense more reps. You're going to suffer before you succeed. You're going to struggle before you conquer. That is the nature and byproduct of growing and redevelopment. For us to expect to lose two of our starting linebackers, that is Eric Gentry and then Raylan. Raylan is also a starting linebacker.
Man, yeah.
They both were unavailable in that game.
Man, it's unbelievable.
For our other starting linebacker, Shane Lee, he only has one arm, and he's still battling through injury. He is not at 100%.
He's not.
He's probably 75% from what I can see.
Yeah.
And then you get other guys who haven't had the same game speed, full speed reps. They're going to struggle in the beginning.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, allow for our squad to grow and mature and get these game reps during this level of competition, because Colorado's going to be a game, Cal is going to be a game, Notre Dame is going to be a game, as well as UCLA, and hopefully everything else that comes after that. It is unrealistic. It is unrealistic to expect the same level of productivity or greater from a unit that hasn't had the same chemistry and ability to fight through real struggle and build that fortitude together. That is something that happens with
experience,
consistency. So look, man, I'm a coach. When I coach, I do have grace and understanding, but I also expect execution.
Yeah.
I saw CV make great plays and I saw him over pursue.
Yeah.
I saw CV be in position to do really wonderful things, and then I saw him be so excited and maybe not capture that moment that he could have been a real star in those situations. But guess what? Now he has that he has that rep experience. He understands, okay, I have to play it this way. Now you're gonna expect that a young man like that, and like everybody else, and I'm calling CV out because he's a grown man. He's He's the type of player that wants to be held accountable. And I know that he watches film. I know that he's a gamer. He's an all-American type linebacker that just needs to continue to get more reps in game speed. And he's a baller. He reminds me of Clay Matthews when he was that age. He reminds me of these same guys. I could tell you how Ray Maluga struggled the first 2 years. And everybody was like, man, what's going on with our linebackers? And then next thing you know, oh, wow, Ray Maluga, Brian Cushing, Clay Matthews, Kaluka Mayava, Keith Rivers, Luther Brown. We were dogs. It just had to come. You had to keep letting those dudes get the reps. And that goes with any position. Doesn't matter who it is. All right? That was a tangent, but man, I could just see into the future with the squad that we have. And I also know how valuable it is to have patience when you're developing and building. We're not Listen, we're a 7-1 team. On a technicality, we could be 8-0 right now.
Absolutely.
We're a 7-1 squad on paper officially that legitimately we have a team that by all accounts should not be in the top 10. And the only reason I'm saying that is because it's a miracle for these groups of young men to come together in this short amount of time and create something that makes us have these levels of expectations. The only thing USC is failing at, if at all, and I use that word really loosely, failing, is meeting our expectations.
Yeah.
They are playing wonderful, competitive football every single week. You go into that game knowing and watching that an experience that you believe you're going to have a competitive edge in. You can't say that for the last 5 years. You just can't.
Yeah. It hadn't been nowhere near what it is, what it has been. Let me shout out to Vet Hangout. He said, enjoy the channel. Keep up the good work. Job. Y'all doing a great job. You mentioned about Sean Lee being injured. Now, and I do. I get that. I totally get that. It was a couple of things that I seen last night from a defensive perspective. such as running back, such as Nick Figueroa having to guard a running back coming out of the backfield. It just looked so just, I don't understand what the schematic point. I mean, can you explain that? Like, what was going on with that from what you've seen?
Well, I don't think he was supposed to carry him the entire route. I think
No, it was somebody supposed to pick him up.
That's correct, but that's where you understand that you have 6 DBs on the field, and 3 of them are pretty new. That level of communication and rapport has to be developed over time and consistency. And football can be defined as a game of a series of specific movements that are timed precisely. That's how you can define the whole sport. It's a series of very specific movements timed precisely. Now, if that is the case, and this is just my definition, how I define football and how you play it, the passing off is something that happens through repetition and understanding of who's behind you and who you're on the field with to understand what their skills are, how long you need to carry a route, understanding the tendencies of the person that leads another player to you in your zone, and all of this stuff. Guys, that was probably the very first time in Nick Figueroa's life he had to do that. And the safety and the dime linebacker, cornerback type position, that person, it was probably their first time seeing it. It won't happen again like that on film. It won't. I'm glad that it showed up now instead of in Notre Dame or UCLA when it's a tight, close game and we need that play. I'm glad it showed up now. I'm glad that teams think that they'll be able to get away with that again. I'm glad that they ran the same tight end crossers all game long. This last night, they ran the same routes that Kincaid ran against Utah. And they really completed one pass. Okay, I'm telling you, they were running the same concepts that Utah ran against us, but they didn't have the same results because we tightened that stuff up. So I did see those adjustments. What we cannot account for is a receiver making an extraordinary individual effort when they're being covered tightly. Those receivers earn every touchdown that they got.
Absolutely. And I mean, I've seen one guy stick his hand out there at the last minute. I'm like, how is he getting this ball?
I was T-Mac, bro. I told you guys from Servite, that dude was a dog. And hey, this could be me saying some crazy stuff right now. But I know that T-Mac's parents did not want him to stay in LA, right? He's from Servite. He's a pretty local kid out here in Orange County. USC was heavily recruiting him. Heavily. I would not be horribly surprised that within the next 3 to 4 years, if things don't work out in Arizona, that he ends up in a Cardinal and Gold uniform at some point in his career.
He's a dog, man.
I would not be shocked.
He's a beast. Yeah. He's a beast. Roger Dodger says, I know Grinch needs players, but this is unacceptable. This is not acceptable next year. Okay. Now, like we mentioned before, this is the very first year Grinch doesn't even have all of his players in. I'm not making no excuses for him at all because I think last night our defense was essentially kind of lost in the sauce. But he doesn't have all his players, and not to mention, like we said, Gentry being out, one of the best players that we had that has that knack. He's really the captain. He is the captain of the defense. And I think with some of the players that we got coming in, like a Tackett Curtis, Braylon Shelby, Peavy, these guys that we just made commitments. I think these guys, and by the way, I think Peavy is a guy that runs a 4.5, 11.5 in the 100 meters. I think that he is a Eric Gentry type, and he can really learn from someone like Eric Gentry. I believe I know they got him talking about the edge, but I think he can be in the middle just like Gentry. What's your thoughts on him? I don't know if you took a look at him.
No, absolutely. He's explosive. He's explosive fast. Like, imagine being that young and running that fast, that big at your position. PV, and from everything I read about him, is that he has great football IQ as well. So those are the types of things that you can't account for that. Like, Eric Gentry is savvy. This man understands football. I mean, intrinsically, he understands the way an offense operates. He understands how to fit in space, and he understands how to be disruptive in certain situations. Those are things that only come from experience and studying. And I do believe that the standard of this defense is to play very educated, sound physical football. Everybody's talking about how bad the defense is. Well, there's defenses all across this country giving up giving up 500 yards. You know,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
it happens.
And
This
it
is
happened in Alabama when they played Tennessee. I mean, it was
it's
crazy.
it's happening. It's happening every Saturday. And so I'm not going to say our defense is terrible. Our defense is not terrible. Our defense is young and we struggle with depth. That is the truth. And it's been so since the beginning. The narrative of the beginning of this season is our defense is going to have to just allow a few less points than our offense, can score. So our offense has to score more than our defense will surrender. That was the narrative nationally. Everybody says the offense will do this, that, and the other, and the defense is the real struggle. But then our defense came and showed up really early in the beginning of the season. So then we inflated our expectations. We now are holding athletes to a standard that is pretty challenging to stay at without full health. I think with all of our health, we still maintain a lot of those standings that we had. But without the full health of our roster, you're going to get this level of I don't want to say diminishing returns, but our defense is winning in a lot of the situations they're supposed to. They got their butts off the field in many critical moments in that game last night, and they did the week before, 2 weeks before that, and the weeks before that. So I don't care if our defense gives up yards. I do care that they give up points, especially if our offense is not clicking. But I feel as though every single one of these games is another block in building the steps towards the kingdom, because you only know what you got when you see it out there on the field. Coaches don't know who their team is until they put them in situations. Allow the coaches to learn. Allow the coaches to breathe. Allow the players to understand how each of them work with one another. We are so quick to say, we suck, this is bad, and listen to narratives when the fact of the matter is we're no different than any other defense in this country.
Yeah, yeah. So we dealt with the defense. I think that's as far as we want to go with that. I think we still got a lot to as it relates to them to be thankful for. And I think if we looked at the beginning of the year, we seen even some of the games, man, we seen them tighten up and do some things. I think once we get healthy, I think we're gonna be okay. Some of the guys back. Now we got to flip the script. We got to talk about this. I'm gonna address this with USC football for life. He says, let's get the elephant out of the room. He's talking about the referees, man. What do we got to say about the referee? And they confessed that they had issues. They made a mistake. Well, I mean, this is really 2 games in a row that you made a mistake and you had major issues. I don't think it's a coincidence. This is really becoming a problem. It's nothing wrong with you going back and saying, look, I mean, because if you can review everything else, how can you not see Caleb points at the clock and you can clearly see the referee's hand is on the ball? How in the world do you just not let us run it back?
Man, look here, y'all. I got old school parents. I'm old school. My mama said, if you ain't got nothing nice to say, then you don't say nothing at all.
Yeah.
With these refs, there's nothing nice to say. The fact is they're operating at a level of idiocy that's it's just completely it's a mockery. It's a mockery of the game. And you put young people in such a critically dangerous situation because they're going to feel like they have to overcompensate. I'm speaking about the psychology of a high level athlete. When you are a high level performer and you are super competitive and you believe that the officiating is against you, I'm telling you, you start to play outside of yourself to try to make up the difference. That's where most of these really critical injuries come to life. And we are down so much depth because of the product of those types of officiating situations. It should be reviewed. It should be harshly reprimanded. The officials should have their credentials be revoked, or at the very least put under suspension until they can deem themselves competent and have the players' safety and neutrality and fairness has to be at the forefront of their play calling. It's us that are insane if we think that the refs are going to help us or change for the better. We should not be surprised anymore. It has shown up every single week, all 8 weeks of this season. You cannot name one game that we've watched where we haven't said something horrendous about the play calling, the officiating in the middle of these critical moments in games. All right. Now, to the refs' credit, which is nothing, they did admit that they made a mistake. Now, had we lost this game by 1 or 2 points, and that would have been maybe the field goal that we most likely would have scored during that play, during that time at the end of the half. Now, imagine had we lost the game. Then do you think they would have taken that same level of accountability? Do you think they would have said, hey, you know what? We screwed you guys. They would not have. So we shouldn't complain about it anymore. We just shouldn't. And you guys are right. You're well within your rights to feel like heinous atrocity of officiating. You cannot start the game clock when the ref has the ball in his hand. You just can't. It's impossible. It's impossible. Okay. But again, this happened to me in the Rose Bowl against USC versus Texas when Vince Young's knee went down.
It was down. Yeah.
Pitched the ball, and they said we can't review it. Why? Well, we just won't, and we can't. Let's leave it at that. So we lost that national championship game. We lost that game, and not only that, but I don't know if you guys are listening, but a whistle blew last night. A whistle blew.
I thought I heard a whistle blow.
A whistle blew, and
yeah.
they let Arizona run the play, and it was like weird. And they got like.
I thought I heard a whistle. I said maybe it came from the crowd.
Maybe, but I don't know. I'm not certain. But either way, man, and you can call it both ways. Like there was a questionable pass, roughing the passer call against Caleb that allowed us to score a touchdown to Kyle Ford, right? There's just what can you like honestly, we can comment on it, but there's nothing to be done. It's like I said, refs are undefeated.
Yeah.
I love his energy. I love his energy. I love him getting in their grill and going, "What are you doing? You look like a fool." So you're gonna tell me that we're supposed to play football while you're holding the football? You're supposed to tell me that we're supposed to throw the ball while you got it in your hand? Like he was hot. And even Mike Bone, our athletic director, he sent a text and a tweet and an email immediately to the NCAA and the Pac-12 and said, "What is this? How can you justify this? You have to have a legal way to legally justify these actions."
Yeah.
You're affecting millions right now.
Big time. Millions of people and millions of dollars.
That's it. That's exactly right. Millions are at stake here. And it's not
big
just
time.
money. It's everything's on the line.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Trojan John, he said, does Riley continue sitting out Gentry, Addison, and whoever else until they face UCLA? Listen, I think Riley, I think you should continue to sit out whoever you need to sit out until they're fully healthy. That's what I think. I don't think we need to compromise nobody's health, you know, for the game, because at the end of the day, these young men, they have futures as well. You know, it doesn't stop at USC, especially when you talk about Addison and Gentry. Both of those guys have futures after USC. So long term has to be until these guys are healthy. That's what I think. You had anything you want to say on that?
I agree. As much as, as much as I know they don't want to rest, sometimes that's the most important thing is you gotta hold them back. You gotta hold them back and force them to fight against their competitive nature. But, their greater will come later. So yes, I agree.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I like this comment too. You like this? He said a lot of people have a lot of negative things to say about our defense. Never played football, and to speak to this comment, I don't think anybody really understands how much back and forth this Jaden Delore guy really was doing last night. I mean, as far as lateral movement, I mean, to your point, you like this. You're absolutely right. These guys were fatigued, and that's why I said I felt like we should have controlled the clock a little more because when you look at a quarterback like that, moving all around, in and out, couple that with the good receivers, there's no way you can't think the defense, guys that are not experienced as a Gentry, there's no way you think that they're not going to get tired. It's impossible. I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah. I That's why I want to get to a place where the USC body, the USC Trojan family has awareness, situational recognition, patience, supportiveness that is relentless, and grace. Like, think about it. I'm telling you, the athletes that we have on this squad are national championship worthy. They really are. I went to USC, we were 6-6 my first year. You think anybody thought in 2 years we would win a national championship? Do you believe that anybody outside of the guys in that locker room believed that we on a national landscape will be national champion recipients in 2 years and then go to run NCAA football for the next 7 years?
Yep.
This is year one, the beginning of a dynasty. Breathe. Breathe. We are in for a long ride, guys, and the rest of this season is going to be very long. And yes, the refs do got beef with us. It's a known though. It's a known.
Yep.
It's a known given. It has never been, it's never been something that is a secret. Ever since we got sanctions and violations back when, 14 years ago now, or however long it was.
Yeah. Yeah.
Then you have to recognize that. Yes, we are the villains of the West. We are the wicked ones of the West, and it's a unique thing, right? Whatever, we get to control our destiny. We get to keep moving forward, but none of this happens without a strong, supportive body. I promise you guys, you never ever can go onto a SEC message board and hear them bash their schools the way some of our true blue faithfuls talk bad about what we're doing here. You can't.
Absolutely.
Like, I've seen people get death threats, and I hate to even say this, but I've seen it, death threats, because they made a negative comment about what was going on with LSU football, with Auburn football.
Yeah.
And somebody said, "Well, I'll kill you."
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Well,
I think I heard not too long ago a guy got arrested for something crazy like that. I think it was his neighbor. His neighbor or somebody was did you hear that?
I didn't want to speak on it, but I'm just saying. But imagine if we had a level of support and resolve. Imagine if we came together and through the law of attraction, the universal law of everybody being together, and we just started to speak nothing but positive, edifying things about our team instead of complaining about the stuff that doesn't look the way we want it to look. But instead just respect it for what it is, as the beginning of something new and beautiful. This is farming. This year one is planting the seed. And right now, these boys are watering it with all their sweat and their effort and the blood that they're shedding on those games weekend after weekend after weekend. They're watering that seed, and I promise you, I see in this staff the ability to nurture and till and cultivate this land. And our love, see, here's where we come in. We are the light. We are the sunlight that shines on it. We are the ones that help reinvigorate it and to give it the substance. The athletes are watering it. The coaches are planting it. The athletes are tilling it. And we got to be the light that shines on it so we can get this thing going.
Yeah.
I've seen this before. I've been here before. I've lived through this before, and a lot of you have as well. And you guys, you want it sometimes a little bit faster than it needs to be done. Here's the thing. Here's the truth. There's a difference between being ready and being prepared. We are ready for success. We're ready to get back in the national spotlight where we're the best. We're
That's
ready
good.
to reclaim the top of the mountain. We're ready for all this stuff. But being prepared means when you get there, you can capture it. You can hold on to it and never let it go. You understand, guys? That's what I need you to understand. These young men are preparing. They're preparing for the greatness that we will again reclaim. You are ready. I don't know if 100% as a university, as a team, we're all the way prepared. We may get to the college playoff, beat a team, get to the national title, and that moment could be too big sometimes for how young we are still in these developmental years. Don't forget, this is a rebuilding year. How can you be pissed off at an almost undefeated rebuilding year?
Yeah, yep. And that's it. I think everybody is essentially lost in the sauce because I mean, well, because we got to remember this time last year, man, we were all depressed. Like I told you, I could not even go to church on Sunday. I was unhappy. You know what I mean? Unhappy in the church house. And because of what was taking place, it was depressing, John. You know it was, bro. We supposed to be praising the Lord, and we up in the church house just depressed because of what we seen on Saturday, bro. So, so listen, hey, all of us we got to be happy, man. And let me get to this point right here, Quinn. Look, he said the bottom line is if we have more depth, the players can rest. With a deeper roster, man. So listen, we bringing in these recruits, man, and I'm telling you, I think we're gonna be good, man. So let's flip the script and talk about the offense. Let's talk about. I think this is Caleb's biggest game. John, you know you couldn't go to church, bro. You know you couldn't go to church. You couldn't go to church if you had.
Hey, y'all. Big bro Jay said, hey, he was in the church last year talking about some. This is the day that the Lord has made.
Hey, man, it was crazy, man.
Rejoice. I will rejoice and be glad.
Hey, Pastor looking at me like, what's wrong with you? Hey, man, USC was wrong with me. Hey, that's what it was last year, man.
This year, you in there, this little light of mine, I'm going to let it shine.
Hey, man. So, man, look, check this out. Caleb Williams, man, he had one of his biggest games, man, of his career. He's never had 411 yards. Now, here's the kicker with this. He did it with Mario Williams, and I'm bringing this point up, with Mario Williams and Jordan Addison. I love you. I'm a big guy, Jordan Addison guy. Now, here's the kicker. He did it with most of the players, Taj Washington, Kyle Ford, Michael Jackson III, and who else?
Brandon Rice. Stop hating.
And Brandon Rice. Yeah, Brandon Rice. Brandon Rice did drop a couple balls, but I ain't gonna hold that against him. He recovered. He scored a touchdown. He recovered. But here's the deal.
But look, he also caught a very long third and long.
Yeah.
When we needed that drive.
Yeah.
And he hurt himself on that
play. And so he did recover. He recovered. But this speaks to the depth at the receiver position. And not only that, it speaks to the talent that was already here. I mentioned to you long time, the YouTube channel guys. I mentioned a long time ago that USC had one of the deepest receiver corps. And last night we seen it on full display. Yeah. You see Kyle Ford, man. Kyle Ford looked like a linebacker. I don't know what kind of supplements Kyle Ford is taking. Kyle Ford looked like he preparing to be Mr. Olympia, man. I don't know. He looks incredible.
He always been swole. He
is swole up. And so it speaks to the depth, man. These guys, the depth is just unreal, man. What's your thoughts on that? And Caleb having his biggest game.
I'm so proud of them. I'm so proud of them understanding how important it was for them to make those plays with two of the leading receivers this season. I can't even say the best receivers. I don't know who the best receiver on our team is. I don't.
Like, seriously though, like, you really don't know that. Nobody knows.
I really don't know that. So I would say with two of our most productive receivers not being able to play this week, it was never a doubt in my mind that you weren't going to discover who else we had in our weaponry. I knew for a fact that we had, we can hurt you a lot of ways. We're not just guys that have swords. We got arrows, cannons, we got ninja stars, landmines, we got bazookas. Like, every one of these receivers has some level that is very tough to game plan against. And I like stylistically not having the same types of bodies along the field.
Yeah.
So that's really one of those things. And yes, I know personally from personal conversation that Kyle Ford said, I'm about to snap.
Yeah.
Last week, he called Caleb. And said, look, I'm done. I'm done with injuries. I'm done not being a contributing force on this field. I'm done not letting my number shine out there.
Yeah.
And look, man, he's ready. He's game time.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Another Southern California product. It was him and Brew McCoy. Man.
Oh my God.
Back then, oh yeah, they was just stupid. But look, let me just tell you, you still have seen nothing yet.
I see CJ Williams got in there too.
Yeah, he did. CJ, I'm telling y'all, man, y'all better watch out, bro. CJ he's a gamer. He's just got to keep growing. We have remarkable depth all across the field. Caleb, how wonderful it is to have a young quarterback who has enough awareness to recognize to get everyone involved. And he did. I mean, Terrell Bynum was balling. Taj obviously was always game time for me. Kyle Ford he's as talented as any receiver. He's a starting receiver at any university in the country, as well as all of the other guys. Michael Jackson, and also Kyron Hudson-Ware.
Oh yeah, I forgot. Lord forgive me. I forgot about him. Wow.
They're just ballers.
It's so many of them, man.
Yeah, and every receiver drops balls, okay? Drops balls. Every single receiver drops balls. Every receiver catches balls. I saw Brendan Rice extend drives for us. Yeah, he may have dropped some passes, but he also scored a touchdown when we really needed it. And it was an individual effort play on a dart. I mean, Caleb zipped that ball in there. You probably can't name 20 receivers in the country that'll catch that pass right there and get their foot down. Right?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
For his first USC touchdown at that. So look, guys, there's a yin and yang to everything and thing. Let's just be balanced. Let's live in that middle area where we can be objective, be critical when we need to be, when they're not playing with effort. If you see that these guys are not playing with effort and that they're being lazy, they're not blocking for each other, if they're not fighting hard, those are the things you complain about. Those are the things that you really get under your skin. But if it's just them learning how to play well together for the first time in a new system, that requires a little time, right? It does.
Yeah. Johnny D says Caleb hit 10 different receivers. It's a trip because now that Addison and Mario are out, and Caleb had a reputation, not reputation, a relationship with these guys. So he did feel comfortable, I think, with Mario and Addison both. But last night it was a little bit different. I don't think the relationship is the same as far as just the reps that they were getting. So now I think it opened up Caleb a little bit more to be able to Johnny D's point, to be able to say, look, I'm gonna look over here, I'm gonna look over here, I'm gonna look over here, and whichever one I see in my visual that's free, I'm gonna get it to him. And you've seen as a result 10 different guys, like to Johnny D's point, being hit. What's your thoughts on that? I mean, is this a trend now? Because he had his biggest game ever. 400. He went 31 for 45, 411 yards, 5 TDs from hitting 10 different receivers. Do we see a new thing with Caleb now being able to the field being a little more open with and when Addison and Mario come back, it's going to still continue this way?
I truly believe it. I truly believe we are seeing the new wave, and we're actually seeing the reason why we have the number one receiving core in the nation.
Yeah.
And in my opinion, the number one passing offense in the nation. So it takes time for a quarterback to get rhythm with multiple types of players, multiple types of guys. Because you got to understand where dudes like the ball position. You have to know where guys feel more comfortable in what situations, what routes they run cleaner than others. How, when can you trust them? In practice, does he tend to drop the ball on third down? There's tendencies for everybody. And now I think Caleb has just put on display a nightmare for a defense to have to scheme against, where it doesn't matter which guy's in the game. And then you had Taj Washington in the backfield, having that level of like tenacity and durability where he can actually play almost like a flex back as well, very similar to what Raleigh does. That's hard, man. That's hard to game plan. I saw some new wrinkles that I think are going to lead us towards a very strong finish line towards the end of this season.
Yeah.
And now that all these guys are involved, you tend to get players more excited and happy going into the back stretch when you need guys to be mentally and emotionally invested in the success of the team. So yes, I think it's going to be awesome.
Yeah, I'm going to tell you, Roger Dodger said that Michael Jackson reverse was a thriller. You're talking about when Travis Dodd pitched that ball. Listen, Michael Jackson, he's healthy now, and the guy looked incredibly explosive. Last night on that little run, I mean, I don't know. What did that thing go for, like 30, 40 yards?
Yeah, and Caleb Williams threw a nice little block downfield. He got slung after, but he look, that's hard, bro. That's hard. That's hard.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
yeah.
I like that. I like that because that's maybe one of like 4 reverses we've probably done this whole season, if that, right?
Yeah.
Yo, what I love to see is I just love to see guys smiling and feeling invested in the process, because at the beginning of the game, I saw, John Jackson III out there, which made me feel really good. He's been in this program so long. His father's a legend. To see him out there getting some reps in the opening drive made me feel extremely proud. This is somebody that's earned it more than anybody that has ever worn Cardinal and gold, right? So just to see all that and to know that now Caleb is finally using the weapons that everybody says he has to his disposal, that's going to make him a more well-rounded quarterback and ultimately bolster him in a true Heisman contention.
Yeah. So man, this is pretty much it. And then we look at Jaden Delore, his numbers, man. He went 26 for 40. He missed a lot though. He did miss a lot, but he went 26 for 43, 380 yards, 3 touchdowns. Taj Washington, I think Kyle Ford as well, but Taj Washington had 7 receptions, 118 yards. Taj Washington balled out last night, man.
Name a game. I can't name a game he hasn't balled out.
Yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right. He balled out last night, and of course Kyle Ford as well. He had quite a few yards. So I mean, as far as the offense, I mean, I think a lot of people say I see comments. They say that USC is no way they can keep this up offensively. I think we can. I mean, when you look at the firepower that we got, and you couple that with the offensive line that we got now, Andrew Voorhees was out. Now you couple that with when he comes back, I think that we can keep it up. Do you think we're able to sustain that, being able to with the firepower that we have at our disposal right now?
Well, I still think we're underperforming. So
yeah,
not to be hypocritical, but I think that we are still underscoring in our games with what our potential is. And the reason I say that is because we still haven't developed a strong balance of running attack. When you start to run the ball more and get the defense to be very like downhill oriented and think that they got to look back to see if the running back's breaking loose as a DB, when you play against teams that run the ball well, you're covering this receiver while hoping and thinking that you're not missing out on a running back running down the field. Right.
Yeah.
And so you're kind of caught in two thoughts. I have to guard this man, but man, this route is taking so long. I should look back to see if they're running it, right? And then you peak and then you lose the receiver, and that's a deep ball, right? Whatever it is, I just know that the more we balance our run, the higher we're going to score.
Absolutely.
Any time that we've had, like, you know what do we have, 160 yards rushing this game?
Let's see. I believe it's somewhere.
Because the Michael Jackson was considered a rush.
Yeah, that was a rush.
Yeah, so I think we had about 160 something yards rushing. Travis Dye, I think he eclipsed 100 yards again. Man, if we can rush the ball for 200 yards a game and pass the ball for over 300 to 350 a game, we'll score 50 points a game.
Yeah, most definitely. Most actually, I think we had close to maybe 180 or somewhere around. Yeah, we had quite a few yards, but so I think we balanced, man. I think we're good, and we are under. I think we are underperforming because we got a lot more room to grow, man. A lot more room to grow, and I think we just got to tighten this thing up on defense while some of these other guys are out, and hopefully we'll be able to. I think the next game, Colorado. Out of these next three games, as we mentioned last week, Arizona, Colorado, and Cal. This was supposed to be the hardest one. Yeah. You know what I mean? This was going to be the hardest one because of Jaden Delore, those receivers. So Colorado, we got to watch everybody, but Colorado and Cal, I don't think they'll put as much pressure, on the defense as what you seen last night, man. I mean, those guys are ridiculous.
No. I mean, Arizona is one of the highest scoring offenses in the Pac-12, and I think it's top 50 in the country. Anytime you play a top 50 in anything team, it's going to be a competitive match. And not to mention, guys, it was their homecoming. They played with everything that they had. Let's not forget the motivation that happens when you play in front of your friends and family. That was homecoming because they wanted the packed stadium. They wanted the energy. They needed to borrow the ambiance to help create a challenging environment, hostile environment. So, I mean, well played for Arizona to schedule probably their toughest game this season as their homecoming.
Right.
I can respect them. I can salute them. And I can say that they brought a very, very respectable match. The more our team has these types of matches, the more I feel like we're capable of winning against stronger teams in the Pac-12 championship or the playoff. I don't want to see blowouts every week. You don't get a true measuring stick of what you're made of. This is great. It's great internal fortification to know that we got athletes who just won't give up. We got guys who are willing to fight hard. We have coaches who can make the right decisions when they need to in critical crunch moments, and we're doing well. We are doing well.
Absolutely. So look, we're getting ready to shut it down. Let me speak to this comment. I didn't see Ray John at all last night, and I thought listening to Lincoln Riley saying that Ray John is right on the cusp, and man, I thought he would. And listen to Ray John's interview as well. I thought he was going to get some time to get in, but I don't know what happened with that. I'm not sure.
I think they ended up playing more dime. Instead they used one true backer. I mean, well, CV and Shane. Excuse me, guys. See, that's me screaming and hollering at the TV. Lost my voice. But CV and Shane were kind of the feature backers for what they were doing. But we played a lot of dime package for the first time this season. And you guys were like looking at a brand new defense. Like we had, how many DBs were out there? Like, think about it. We had even Bryson Shaw for the first time this season had a premier and featured role because of the way we play. We play with 3 down linemen. We play with a gang of secondary guys. So Ray, I don't think it fit him to play in this dime package. But now we know that we have a dime package that we can use and win a game with. Like, everything means something. It may not have looked the way you wanted it to, the way Vegas said it was supposed to go, or the way you expected it to. But what I saw last night was another step towards the ultimate growth that leads us to the prominence that we are praying for and are expecting in the near future. I loved what I saw. I just didn't like some of the execution on the individual plays.
Yeah.
The scheme was there. The tackling, that's an individual thing. Some of them blown assignments, that's a mental, individual thing. Nothing I saw was uncoachable. So I'm feeling okay. It doesn't feel good when you're not, shutting guys out. But at the same time, you got to know that as these gentlemen are getting these reps, that's stuff that you get to teach and clean up so that you can become greater later. It's just the truth.
Absolutely, absolutely. So look, we talked about the good, we talked about the bad, we talked about the ugly, and we believe some mistakes are gonna be corrected. And look, everything's not gonna happen in 1 year. We gotta agree on that. 1 year and we're 7-1. Look, once again, we were lost in the sauce last year. So listen, man, we got a lot to be thankful for. I'm excited the fact that we're 7-1 and we're still in the mix. And so look, we'll come back to you this week. Of course, you guys know whether it's recruiting, whatever. I'll be back tomorrow. But listen, man, we appreciate everybody for tapping in, man. And listen, now Corey wasn't in my A. Corey didn't play last night. Trojan John. Corey didn't play at all last night. I don't even think he suited up last night.
I don't know. I don't think he suited up.
No, he was hurt. He was hurt from my understanding.
Yeah.
Corey was hurt. So look, you're right. We should be a no. So look, until tomorrow, we appreciate everybody. We usually like to try to go an hour, a little bit over an hour, but look, we got a big win. This is still Victory Sunday. Victory Sunday. So look, until tomorrow, man, everybody, absolutely, Trojan John, we appreciate you, man. We appreciate you.
Thank you.
So look, until tomorrow, everybody, we'll tap in tomorrow. Fight on, fight on, fight on.
Fight on. Much love, Trojan fam.